welcome to the final edition of Ask Ron for the year 2017. My last Ask Ron, I got a question from a gentleman named Glenn Hill, 68. He's over in the UK. What up, my Brits? And his question, I felt deserved its own edition of this because it's something I wouldn't want to just brush through in, a minute or two. It's something I care deeply about because it's what advice would you give to someone starting out in bodybuilding? And I started out in bodybuilding 1987, 30 years ago. A lot of things I would do differently if I was starting out and knew then what I know now. And obviously I would do things differently because things have changed quite a bit in 3 decades. So let's get going. First of all, if you're just starting out in bodybuilding, congratulations on choosing bodybuilding. It's not that popular a choice anymore. A lot of young people don't even work out. I'm assuming people starting out for the most part are young. A lot of guys working out when I was a kid, everybody, for the most part, all young guys, all teenage boys, we wanted to be big, strong. A good percentage of us worked out in one way or another, whether it was just bench pressing or doing some curls. We did something, push-ups, pull-ups. We had action heroes back then like Schwarzenegger, Stallone, Van Damme, wrestlers like Hulk Hogan. We had so many people in the mass media that were muscular that we a lot of us aspired to look like that, or at least have some kind of muscles. Whereas now I don't think it's as popular, and especially now we have so many other things. If somebody wants to compete or whatever, they have other options. They have men's physique, they have classic physique. So bodybuilding, it's not as popular. It's not as many people choosing to become bodybuilders as there were in years past. So first of all, congratulations. First thing I want to tell you is be patient. It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to build an exceptional physique overnight. It's going to take years. Still drugs are going to come into the equation. We'll talk about that later. Don't worry. But regardless, it's going to take years. You don't go from looking like a regular person to looking like someone who, when you walk in a room, people are like, oh my God, that guy is jacked. That doesn't happen quickly, no matter who you are, even no matter how many drugs you take. It's going to take a while. It's going to take a lot of time and effort. So, be ready for that. Don't expect things to happen overnight. Your gains will come pretty quickly in the beginning. First few months, first year even, you'll probably make the best progress of your entire career because it's such a new thing for your body, for your muscles, for your nervous system. Your body's going to have to struggle to adapt, and you're going to grow. You're going to get bigger and stronger. In most cases, by the week, every week you'll be a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger for a long time. It's going to be very, very consistent progress in the early months, year, 2 years. Things will slow down after that, unfortunately. That's why we don't have people walking around that are 1,000 pounds ripped, because there is a limit and because things do slow down. The bigger and stronger you get, the harder it is to become any bigger or stronger than that. That's just a basic rule of thumb. It's going to take a while. Be patient. Just, enjoy the process. Don't just worry about the end goal all the time that I want to look like this, I want to compete, I want to do this and that. Enjoy what you're doing. You have to enjoy it. It's a hard sport. It's a hard lifestyle. It's a lot of work. So if you don't enjoy what you do, and you're just in it, for the physique that you want, and you hate the training, you hate the eating and all that, I'd say don't even do this. You're gonna be unhappy. You're gonna be miserable. So don't even. But for everybody else, keep listening, please. The next thing is be realistic. Don't plan on becoming Mr. Olympia or getting rich in bodybuilding. Make it your hobby. Even Ronnie Coleman, he still says bodybuilding was my hobby, and he was 8-time Mr. Olympia. You do have a lot of guys getting into it that they aspire to greatness, and that's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't aspire to that. You could be the best you can be. And, a lot of times genetics aren't obvious at the very beginning anyway. You have to train for a little while before you're going to know whether or not you're going to be something special. Generally speaking, the people who are going to be special in the sport of bodybuilding, it's fairly obvious within a year or so, a year, 2 years of their training, that there's something different about them. They have a different look to their bodies. Their muscles have a different shape. They just look different than pretty much everyone else in the gym. People, they turn heads. People are like, wow, look at that guy. Look at that girl. Wow. Because they have these rare genetics, that they respond to the training and the eating and eventually the drugs much, much better than, 95% of the general human population. But regardless, you want to be realistic and make this a hobby. Don't put all your eggs in one basket. As Greg Valentino, very, very wise man in a lot of ways, he pointed out in a fairly recent show of his that he does for MD, Ramblin' Freak. He always said, make this your hobby and have something else to fall back on. Get an education. Don't skip college. Don't, decide you can't work because you're going to be a bodybuilder. It's ridiculous. Get an education. Get a good job. Have these other things going on, and bodybuilding should be a hobby because most of you out there, even some of you with really good genetics, you're never going to make a dime from bodybuilding itself. You might win some contests or whatever, but you're never going to make any money at it. It's just the way it is. So don't go into it expecting that this is going to be, your ticket, your lottery ticket to greatness and wealth, and it's probably not going to be. If it does, that's awesome, good for you. But have something else going on. Let's start about the training. Let's talk about the training a little bit now. So your training in the first couple of years should be very, very basic. Your joints are still fresh. You still have a lot of potential size and strength wise, so this is when you want to capitalize on that. You should be doing mostly compound free weight movements. So we're talking about bench press, squat, deadlift, military press, barbell row, dips, chins, barbell curls, skull crushers, just a lot of heavy free weights. And when I say heavy, don't get caught in the trap of training more like a power lifter and always worrying about your 1 rep max and all that. That's great if you want to be strong, and that's a whole other thing. That's not bodybuilding. I see a lot of bodybuilders or people that think they're bodybuilders posting up all these videos on Instagram where they're deadlifting 400 or 500 pounds or squatting all this weight. And a lot of these people have very little muscle to show for it. So that's not bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is more reps, 8 to 12 for the most part for the upper body, 10 to 20 for the lower body. Reps, time under tension, that's what builds muscle mass. You should still be trying to work up in poundage and get stronger in that rep range. So if you're bench pressing 135 pounds today for 10 reps, a year from now, you should be able to, if you're doing 225 for 10 or more, you'll have a much bigger chest, I guarantee you. But if you're doing 1 rep with 135 today, that's your max, and a year from now your max is 225 but you've been doing mostly low reps for everything, 1 to 3 reps, which a lot of guys out there do because they just don't know any better. You'll be a lot stronger, but you're not going to be as big as you would have been had you included more time under tension in your training, more reps. So I'm not saying go out there and train for the pump, do a bunch of cables and all this and do 50 reps. No, I'm not saying that. Don't do that. But don't worry about 1 rep maxes and how much I can deadlift and put this on Instagram. Whoa, look at me. If you consider yourself a bodybuilder, then strength is really just a side effect of what you're doing. It comes with the territory because you're going to be creeping up weights within that rep range that builds muscle mass. Again, 8 to 12 for the upper body for the most part, 10 to 20 for the lower body. And if you do that, you're going to get much, much bigger, and you will get stronger also. But if you only focus on getting stronger, as a lot of these guys out there who are misguided, they just don't know any better, they're ignorant, you're not going to get a whole lot bigger. You're just going to get stronger. And like I said, if that's your goal, good for you, God bless you, that's fine. I'm not telling you what your goal is. But if you consider yourself a bodybuilder is about building a physique. So the most important thing for you to do is build some mass. You have to have, bodybuilders look different from regular people, even most regular athletes, because they have this extreme muscle mass. It's the way we train. We train to build muscle mass. Every other sport now weight trains as part of their, conditioning. They all have strength coaches. They all do this, and a lot of them aren't very big. A lot of them are much stronger than you'd think looking at them, but they're training to become better at their sport. So they're training for power, speed, things like that. They're generally not trying to get bigger, which bodybuilders are. That's what sets us apart. We're the only sport, and I know it's kind of debatable whether it's a sport or not, that emphasizes greater muscle mass, extreme muscle mass, because we're looking at the physique and judging it. That's what our shows are judged on, is how the physiques look. Mass is a big part of that equation. You can have great shape, symmetry, proportion, but if you're very small, it doesn't matter what division, classic, nothing, you're not going to do very well. You need mass. And obviously bodybuilding requires the most mass out of everything. It's the high end of all the competitive things you could do physique-wise as a male. So training-wise, we talked about the free weight basics. Don't worry about specializing on body parts and this body part's weak and that. Until you get a good base, you don't know what's weak and what's strong. So just work on everything. Don't do specialization routines like, I'm going to work on I want to really work on my arms. No. Just work on everything. Get bigger overall. Your body gets bigger overall, your arms are going to get bigger. If you go from 130 pounds to 200 pounds, I guarantee your arms are going to get a lot bigger, even if you didn't set out to make it that way. Everything's going to grow. Your chest, your back, your shoulders, your legs. And, leg training, back training, chest training, doing those all heavy, you're working the whole body. Every time you work your chest, you're also hitting a lot of shoulders, front delts, triceps. Every time you work your back heavy, you're doing a lot of biceps also, and rear delts. Deadlifts work almost the entire body. They're also all the pulling muscles of your upper body, plus your entire lower body, is engaged in deadlifts. So focus on just building overall mass. And, eventually you will see that some body parts are responding much better than others. What you want to do in that case is to back off on a body part if it's growing way ahead of everything else, because you're just going to look ridiculous. If you have a chest that grows much faster than the rest of your body, do you really want to have this enormous chest and then little narrow shoulders and little arms and little legs? You're going to look stupid. Giant legs and a skinny upper body. Hey, I know you're talking about me, people. But you want to keep an eye on your proportions, and you want to work. Eventually, when you do realize that there are areas that aren't responding as fast, those are your weaker areas, and you need to work them harder. You need to put more time and effort. You need to figure out different angles, different exercises, different techniques that are going to make them respond. Generally speaking, it's very rare that you're going to have any body part that just won't grow at all. It's always going to be super weak. More likely, it's never going to be an outstanding body part, but you can get it much closer to matching everything else if you really focus on it, put the time and effort in, and try to figure out, maybe I'm doing things wrong here. Maybe I'm doing half reps on my squats and leg presses, and I'm not doing enough reps. And you'll figure out, if you really put the time and effort into trying to figure out what's going on, and this is why I also encourage you to keep training logs where you have not only your workouts listed, exercises you did, sets, reps. I would also keep your measurements in there, once a month maybe. Take your weight, measure your chest, your arms, your legs, your waist, your calves, just to see what's going on with everything, and take pictures. Take pictures, same light, same place, front, back, side. If you want to do a couple poses too, but it should always be the same poses, same place, same lighting conditions, everything. And you'll get an idea of how your body's progressing, how your physique's coming along. What else did I want to talk about that? Get stronger in 10 reps. Okay, nutrition. Yeah. It's the hardest part of bodybuilding. You really have to put a lot of time and effort into your nutrition if you want to be good at this, if you want to be the best you can be. So, and I got to back up. When I say that's what you all should be aspiring to, is the best you can be. You're probably not going to be the best in the world. Maybe you might not be the best in the country. You might not even ever be able to be the best in your state. You can always be much better than you were when you started out, and you can always improve based on yourself. Obviously, when you get on stage, you're competing against other people, but the real competition is against yourself, and are you getting better? Because if I see somebody looks the same year after year after year, even if they look really good, I'm not impressed. Why didn't they make any improvements? They weren't. They just got complacent and satisfied. So back to nutrition. Yes, you need to eat every 2 to 3 hours that you're awake. This comes out to 5 or 6 meals every day, every week, every month, every year, for years. So you're going to need to go out and buy all this food, or someone's going to have to buy it for you. You have to cook all this food, or find someone that's going to cook it for you, or if you're got a lot of extra money laying around, you can go to one of these meal prep companies and pay to have a bunch of meals shipped to you or shipped to your gym or wherever that works in your case. And that's not a bad option for a lot of people that can't cook and don't have anyone that will cook for them. But, understand that you can't just rely on snacks and fast food and things like that. That's garbage. You need good quality food. Chicken breasts, chicken thighs, eggs, turkey breasts, ground turkey, ground beef, steak, fish, whitefish, salmon, potatoes, sweet potatoes, oatmeal, cream of wheat, fruit, vegetables, a lot of good, clean, natural food. Now, you don't necessarily have to go to Whole Foods and spend, every cent you make on food. I don't believe you have to have like grass-fed bison at every meal or free-range, organic, this and that. No, you don't have to do that. But, you do need a lot of real food. Shakes come in handy, absolutely. I drink shakes, but I don't rely on them. I have 2 shakes a day. Usually I have a post-workout shake, and then I have a shake in the middle of the night. Everything else is real food. Your body responds very well to real food. That's what builds muscle mass. That's what your body needs to make new muscle mass from all your workouts and your hard work in the gym. And that's why nutrition is key. It is, when people say it's 90% or it's 82.2% or whatever, it doesn't matter what the percent is. It's training, nutrition, and rest are 3 sides to a pyramid. If any of those sides are weak or deficient, you don't get your end result. The pyramid collapses. You're not going to get the physique that you want because you don't have everything in place. You can train very hard, but if you don't rest and recover between workouts, and you don't feed the muscle, you don't feed your body the nutrients it needs, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats, and drink plenty of water, it's not going to grow. It's like consider training to be like putting seeds in the ground. Those are your workouts, putting seeds in the dirt. Now, if you don't water and if they don't get any water and sunlight, those seeds aren't going to grow, right? It's the same thing with your muscles. If you train very hard, but you don't get enough good food, and you don't get enough rest, you're out partying, you're up all night watching TV or playing video games, and you're only sleeping 4 or 5 hours a night, you're screwing yourself over. You're not going to get the results you want. So, next, hardest part about it. Yes, that's hard. Okay, don't be one-dimensional. I talked about that, but I've known people that they gave up relationships. They broke up with their girlfriend, or in some cases divorced their wife, left a wife and kids to go off and be a bodybuilder. They've quit jobs, they've quit school, they've left all their friends, so they have no social life. And I've known people that were like that, and they were horrible bodybuilders. They didn't have good genetics. Some of these people I know, they took tons of drugs, but they just had shit genetics. But all they did was go to the gym, come home, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, eat, sleep, go to the gym again, eat, sleep. How'd they make money? Well, most of them are drug dealers. But you don't want to give up your whole life for bodybuilding unless you're a pro bodybuilder or somehow you're making a really good living from it. Then it makes sense. Otherwise, what the hell are you doing, dude? Yeah, come on. Cut it out. Have a life. Don't be one-dimensional meathead who all he cares about is, going to the gym, lifting weights, eating his food, and making sure he gets his 10 to 12 hours of sleep a night. It's something I've known these guys they do it in their 20s, 30s, and then I run into them in their 40s and they're just miserable. A lot of them, they're all torn up, torn muscles, wrecked joints. They've never done well at bodybuilding, and now they've had no good relationships, they're uneducated, they have no friends, and now they're waking up at age 40, 45 and going, uh-oh, what did I do? It's too late now, dude. You just pissed away a good chunk of your adult life on something that you shouldn't have. Okay, let's talk about drugs. I had to talk about them. Okay. I agree with Greg Valentino. Wait until you have a very good natural base. I myself trained for 12 years before I touched a drug. I know no one out there that's just starting out is going to wait 12 years. Now, 12 years? That's ridiculous. That's how long I waited. Valentino waited even longer. It's not so much the years. It's, you should be pretty close to maxing out your natural amount of muscle mass and strength. Mass is really what I'm concerned about here. So if you started out weighing 150 pounds, let's say, you get yourself to 200 pounds naturally, and you're stuck there for, even though you're training hard and eating right, getting enough sleep, you're stuck there for a year or 2 years. You probably hit your natural potential. You're not going to get any bigger until you start using drugs. But if you start on drugs from day one with no base at all, you'll still get big, and you'll still get a lot bigger and stronger. I'm not going to lie and say you won't. Sure you will. But when you stop the drugs, and eventually you're going to have to stop, you're going to lose everything. You're going to look, within a few months, you'll look like you never touched a weight again. You know, you were all drugs. You had no base. You had nothing that you built on your own. Plus, you never really learned your body. A good reason to wait is because if you take the time and really learn how your body responds to certain aspects of training, what exercises, and you do mastering the mind-muscle connection with your body parts and exercises, and figuring out really how to best train for you, how to eat best for you, what foods your body responds to. So many things you can learn about your body. And once you've really mastered all that and built a good natural base, and then you add the drugs in, your results are going to be so much better. And when you go off drugs, you're not going to lose everything. You'll lose a little. Of course you're going to lose a portion of it. How much you lose, it's an individual thing. It varies from person to person. Some people keep, like 80% of their drug gains when they're off drugs. Others will lose half or more. It just depends. But a lot of it does also have to do with how long you train naturally and how much of a good natural base of size and strength. You should be pretty big and strong naturally before you start drugs. And I know it's a patience thing. It's the world moves a lot faster now. People expect things much faster, and they want things now. I get that. Believe me, I get it. When I started training, I wanted to get big and strong. I was very naive. I didn't really know about drugs and all that, and I'm really glad that I didn't. And I'm glad I had no access to them, because I probably would have hopped on them much sooner. But I'm very glad I stayed natural for as long as I did. I learned a lot about my body. And once I did start on drugs in my late 20s, I knew what I was doing. My training, everything was down pat. Research. Before you do drugs, before you even think about doing drugs, do your own research. Read as much as possible. There's so much good information out there. There's so much. You have no excuse not to do not to do this research. It's all out there at your fingertips online for free. You don't even have to pay for it. There's no reason for you to be lazy and ask the guy at the gym. You see some big juice head at the gym and, hey, what should I use and what drugs? Just because some guy's big, he doesn't necessarily know much. Trust me. There are guys out there who are pretty damn big, and they're borderline, can I use the word retarded? They're borderline, they're not very bright. Just let's leave it at that. Same thing goes with dealers. Don't try to get all your drug advice as a newbie from dealers, because a lot of them are just going to tell you what they want you to know in order for you to buy certain things from them. They'll tell you need this and that because they want to sell it to you, or maybe they got too much friggin' Deca on hand and they want to unload it, so they'll tell you that's the greatest thing and you should just do all that. They don't have your best interests at heart. Let's put it that way. Their best interests are their wallets. They just want to make money off you. Not to say that there aren't some more ethical ones out there, but a lot of them are going to purely want your money, and they'll tell you whatever is going to help separate you from your money. And it's not going to be to your best interest. It's going to be sometimes a lot of things that will endanger your health. It'll be, not the best ways to use drugs. They'll tell you combinations that make no sense to anyone who knows what the hell they're talking about. I've heard some crazy stories about what guys have been told from other guys in the gym or from dealers. I'm like, oh my God. And they believe it. They don't know any better. And they didn't do any research, so they don't know any better. They're ignorant. So this is why I encourage you to go out, learn as much as you can. Another thing, if you decide to do drugs, absolutely start with very low doses, lower doses. Why? Because, first of all, as time goes by, you're going to get your best responses from your first few cycles anyway. So you don't need a lot. Your body's going to respond to very moderate amounts. My first cycle was an 8-week cycle of 2 sustenons a week. They were 250 milligrams. So 500 milligrams a test, and I probably could have done pretty well on a little bit less, but they were already preloaded in these 250 milligram syringes. So I did 2 of those a week for it was 8 or 10 weeks, whatever. I responded very, very well. I put on a ton of size, got much, much stronger. But you know, guys will tell you you need to start on a Bramah test, and you should be on 600 milligrams of Deca or Equipoise your first cycle. You should be on 50 milligrams of D-ball a day. You don't need that for your first cycle or your second cycle. As time goes by, and you do more and more cycles, which most people do. A lot of people say, I'm just going to do one. Yeah, good luck with that. It's like having one potato chip. So you're going to need, your body's going to get accustomed to it, almost build up a resistance, if you will. It's going to take more and more steroids to see continued growth. So if you start out high, if you start out on 2 grams of shit a week, you're going to have to keep going up and up from there. And eventually you're going to be using like toxic doses, and your internal organs are not going to be too happy about that. Be conscious of your health, even if you're young. I know young people, just the nature, I was the same way. You think you're going to live forever, nothing bad's going to happen to me. That's it. That's why soldiers for thousands of years have been young guys, because they're stupid. I was stupid. You think you're going to live forever, you think you're invincible, nothing's going to hurt you. But you know, this year we lost one of the greatest young bodybuilders of all time, Dallas McCarver, 26 years old. I hope that was a wake-up call and a reality check for a lot of younger guys, that these things aren't harmless. You can die. You can have major health problems, and yeah, you can die. It's rare, but unfortunately it happens. You might have a genetic predisposition you have no idea you had with your heart. You'll be 26, 27, 28 years old. Boom, heart attack and dead. You know, these things happen. It's very tragic and unfortunate, but that's reality. So be careful. Tell your doctor what you're doing. If they're judging you, find another doctor that won't judge you and say, I really would like to monitor blood work and my heart, and make sure my heart, my liver, my kidneys, all these things are good, my cholesterol. And if they're not, you know, you need to take measures and get them right again. Take time off. Don't be on drugs all the time. I was talking to someone who has a good friend. He was a kid, he's like 24 years old. And he was on drugs for 2 years straight. Like I'm not talking TRT doses. I'm talking he was on like a couple grams a week for like 2 years. And 6 months he was clean, and his test levels were still non-existent. And they're probably never coming back. You know, eventually if you use drugs long enough, you're going to have to go on TRT as an older guy, testosterone replacement therapy, because your body's not going to make its own. But if you're smart and you take time off between cycles, do your PCT, as a younger guy, your body will bounce back and produce its own test again. But you have to give it time, and you have to be patient. You can't be on drugs all the time. That's the hardest part about drugs, is they're psychologically addicting. You get addicted to looking a certain way, feeling a certain way, getting the attention, and it's hard to go back to reality. It's not reality, because it's an artificial, temporary condition that you're able to achieve with the use of pharmaceuticals. And when you take the drugs away, a lot of that look goes away. The drug look, that fullness, that hardness to the muscles. You know, you can't look the same on drugs as you can off. If drugs didn't work, people wouldn't use them. But I encourage you to please be smart about it. Take care of yourself. Be cautious. All those things, because, you know, we fight and squabble and argue and all this, but in the end, all of us who do this thing, we're all brothers in iron. We're all, whether you're 20 years old, 50 years old, we're all living that lifestyle that very few other people in the world approve of or understand. You know, most people think we're ridiculous for doing what we do. You know, a lot of people from the outside see what we do as just such a waste of time, and it's narcissistic. Why would you want to build up your muscles to look like that? Why would you want to look like that? And, you know, whether drugs are involved or not, why would you do that to yourself? This is how I want to look. That's how you want to look, because you chose bodybuilding. That's why. I guess that's it. I mean, I've rambled on for a good almost a half hour here, so please follow me on Instagram at Ron Harris Muscle, because I still don't even have 10,000 followers. It's pretty pathetic. You know, I should have at least 10, right? So, that's it. That's been my advice for the people starting out in bodybuilding. Wish you all a very happy new year. Be safe. Have a great 2018. And I'll talk to you next time.